Up next, we got Brandon from Charlotte. Wanted to talk a little about the Oregon Ducks and what they're doing on the recruiting trail.
JD, how's it going, man? Brandon Smith, live in Charlotte. Just wanted to ask you about specifically, I'm an Oregon Duck football fan. I wanted to ask you about how sustainable you think the recruiting the West Coast footprint is for Coach Dan. Do you think that's something that can sustain the majority of his roster while wanting to, obviously be a championship contender year in and year out? I want to just know your thoughts on that. And obviously the national recruiting plays a factor into it. Do you think that's something that Dan can sustain during his tenure here? Thank you.
Appreciate you, Brandon, calling in, man. Calling in from Charlotte. Oregon's got their footprint all over the place when it comes to the fanhood side of things. But what I think you're saying there is on the money. We're in a day and age in college football where I think you got to recruit nationally. I think you have to recruit nationally. Now, I will say this. I think when it comes to what you need to do on the West Coast, it's strictly about being able to get your guys that need to be gotten from the West Coast. Let me put it another way. Oregon's in a spot where regardless of who they're going after, this is not to knock the state of Oregon, but they're probably getting on a plane either way to go see the kid. It's a matter of, is it going to be an hour flight or is it 4 hours, 5 hours, so on and so forth. And so I think also you talk about the West Coast, I don't think it's even realistic to say we're just going to lean on California, just going to lean on Arizona and Washington. And that's not me saying that there's not enough talent in those states to sustain what Oregon wants to do. But I think with where Oregon is geographically, they're going to have some competition with Arizona State now in Arizona. I think USC, I've said many times, if they can lock down Southern California, they're in good enough position. So it's not about the talent in those states. To me, it's more about who you're competing with in the battles that you're probably going toe-to-toe with, especially now with USC and how they're operating, to where it's not a safe assumption to just say, yeah, we'll just get all the guys in California and that's going to be how we win national championships. Also, give Dan Lanning credit. You mentioned this. Oregon's at a spot now where the brand and the way that they recruit in general, it is a national footprint. Like, yes, you look at this most recent cycle, and there's a lot of guys from the West Coast and California, Arizona, and Washington, all that I just mentioned. But, 9 of Oregon's 19 commits were from places outside of the West Coast. Like, you talk about dudes they got from other states, Alabama. They go into Texas and get DeCorian Moore. And they go to Ohio. Oregon's a school to where, to me, they kind of just go where they want to go and recruit who they want to recruit. I don't think they're bound by geographical ties quite as much as maybe you would have been. You talk about early 2000s and where college football was then. A good metaphor here is when you're rich, man, you shop wherever you want. You're not bound by what store is close to you. If you want to go shop at Gucci and you got the money to go shop there, that's where you go. You want to go to a Louis Vuitton store, you got the money, you go to Louis Vuitton and you go shop there. That's where Oregon is right now. And that's not me telling you it's just pay for play, but I do think we'd be kidding ourselves if we thought the resources and the NIL backing that Oregon has with Nike, if we don't think that plays a factor, it absolutely does. And so to answer your question here, the West Coast has to be a part of it so much as there is talent that Oregon wants from those states. Like if you want to just go recruit exclusively Texas, exclusively Georgia, Florida, wherever, you can do that if you're Oregon. And that's a credit to Dan Lanning. That's a credit to the powers that be at Oregon to elevating them to a spot where they can get it done. I'll also say this. I think the reason why you're seeing Oregon recruit the level they're recruiting at, yes, it's because of, the NIL backing. I'm sure that plays a factor. But, man, Dan Lanning is from the Nick Saban and Kirby Smart school of thought when it comes to recruiting. You're always doing it. And Dan Lanning's an absolute dog on the recruiting trail, man. Like, yes, you have the resources to go compete at a high level on the recruiting trail, but if you don't have a dude to make it all go, if you don't have a guy that's willing to jump on those flights, willing to make those phone calls at just, I'm sure, ungodly hours, then it doesn't matter. Dan Lanning is built different. And so the point I'm trying to make here is Oregon overall, as long as they have the product they have on the field, as long as they have those NIL resources that they have, they're going to be a factor regardless of where they want to recruit. So to put it simply, yeah, recruit the West Coast, but Oregon's not going to be built just of West Coast talent. Why? Because there's talent all over the United States that Oregon wants to and will go get. They've proven that. They'll continue to prove that. And by nature of how Dan Lanning's recruiting right now, I don't see Oregon going anywhere anytime soon.